All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unfiltered Tales Season 5, Episode 23. Today I bring you Miss Mandy Hart. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm excited. It's always interesting to see what comes up in these conversations, especially when it's live.
Well, anything can happen though.
Yeah,
It's going to have some fun,
I like that.
But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a intimacy or sex and relationship coach. I do it virtually mostly. I do it because I love it.
Hmm.
I love helping people. I love sex. I love health. I mean, I don't know if I'd say I love health, but I love things that go into it, understanding human sexuality, making decisions that we feel good about, psychology. I like the intersection of all of it. Um, I am an animal lover and I'm a little weird. I'm I'm a little boring. It kind of just depends on when you catch me, I guess. That's
Why would you say you're bored? You're boring.
boring. Because I'm 39 and I feel like I've done a lot in my life to where I'm ready to just chill on the couch with my animals and watch a movie every single night.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I definitely can understand that. But it says so everything you did in your work is basically shaped around your real world experience, from teaching sexual health education to immigrant and refugee communities and things of
Mhm.
that nature.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I had somebody ask me earlier, a potential client, um, who I met off Reddit, and I think a lot of times when people are coming from Reddit, they're very skeptical, which rightfully so. But I think he was questioning, like, what he said, "What's in it for you?"
Hmm.
That's exactly what he asked. And I thought, how do I answer this? Because what's in it for anybody who ever likes to help? It's nice to help, but also I've gotten pretty frustrated and even angry at systems that either give us the wrong information,
Hmm.
um, or no information, or they make us feel bad about being curious.
Hmm.
And I think there's a part of me that I don't know if it's necessarily about justice,
Hmm.
but more about, like, truth. Like, let's just be honest and then make choices based on things we know and not things that we're afraid of, or things that, are myths that have been told. And you know am I making sense? It's like correcting these beliefs that lead people to make choices that they later maybe wish or think, maybe I wouldn't have done that if I had known more. I don't
You're
want to say
making
regret,
sense.
but
You're making sense. So we'll just jump straight into it. So it's like, what do most people get wrong about shame, and how does it quietly shape our sex lives?
mhm. So, okay, I think ultimately, uh, what shame does, and this is not just, it doesn't just pertain to sex, but I think when it pertains to sex, it is
Hmm.
particularly impactful. But what it does is makes us compartmentalize.
Mhm.
And when we compartmentalize our sexuality, which I believe is very core to who we are as human beings,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean when I say sexuality is core, I don't mean that as a human being, you have to be sexual.
Mhm.
You don't. But we all have the capability of being sexual, having sexual desires, being
Mhm.
capable of having sex. And so when you compartmentalize that, it can start to really twist up everything else about your life, everything. It's it's like unique in that way, I think, where there's kind of like the big themes in life, uh money, sex, um I don't know, but I can see maybe shame around socioeconomic status or
Mhm.
something like that being also one of those things that's very core and foundational, or can feel very core and foundational. But human sexuality, that's something we all have in common. It doesn't matter what gender, race, age, even. Uh, and so when you add shame to that, it's like it touches every single person.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It just really twists up our idea of humanity,
Right.
I think.
Okay. So you often say you're trauma empowered, not
Mhm,
just trauma informed. Like,
mhm.
what's the difference and why does it matter?
So I think trauma informed is really, really important in a lot of spaces. It's it can be enough. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's it's all that there can be. For example, if you are an officer of the law, I think
Mhm.
being trauma informed is very important and maybe all that's necessary because it's kind of like first line of defense.
Mhm.
But when you're a coach or a therapist or somebody in a position, a parent even, somebody who's in a position to help another, then when you add this component of empowerment,
Mhm.
you are saying, "Yes, I understand the trauma. Yes, I can help you understand the trauma, but let me also help you live with it in a way that feels okay."
Right.
That because you can't get rid of it. We cannot erase it. We will always carry it with us in one way or another. And
Mhm.
so you can intellectualize something every single way, up, down, right, left, back, forth, inside and out. But if you don't actually process it and embody it, doesn't matter
Mhm.
how many times you think about it, you'll never move forward if you don't turn that into some kind of embodiment, action. uh, that's where the empowerment comes from. It's like moving forward with it.
Okay. I got you totally. So you say, okay, the empowered moves forward. So what does good sex actually mean and why do so many people misunderstand it?
So I think this, this is it's so tough to answer because it depends on what shapes our beliefs. And so good sex, the idea of good sex can mean different things to different people.
Mm.
And I think what we probably all sort of miss on the collective is a basic foundation of understanding boundaries, bodily autonomy,
Mhm.
and consent. And then when you add that component of removing shame and allowing pleasure, or allowing the desire for pleasure, and I can kind of explain what I mean by that, but then you can move forward in a way where you know what feels good, because what good sex looks like for me could look
Mm.
totally different to someone else. And as long as we both feel good about it, and we're both uh, aware of our boundaries, we are consenting, we are allowing, then our definition of good sex doesn't matter if it's different, because we're kind of following the same formula, I guess. And when I say allowing, I want to I want to make this point again, because it relates actually back to that person earlier who asked
Mhm.
me, "What's in it for you?" They were dealing with an unwanted desire,
Mhm.
and it was a particularly taboo desire. And again, this was from Reddit, and the responses that he was getting from other people
Mhm.
were kind of your standard, like, "Oh, you need therapy. Oh, you like basically like there's something wrong with you. You need to fix it." And I said, "There's actually nothing wrong with your desire, even if it doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what it is. Having the desire doesn't make anybody bad or wrong. You're
Right.
allowed to want whatever you want. Acting on it, that's when you ask the questions, is everybody consenting? Is everybody able to consent? Like, are you of age, or are you of sound mind? Is anybody getting hurt? If they're getting hurt, do they want to be getting hurt? 'Cause sometimes people want to, it's like, to what degree then? Because I'm not even bringing in like the law, although that's a whole other
Right.
part of the conversation. But the desire itself, you can desire whatever you want, and it doesn't make you bad. There's a reason for it. And once you allow yourself to just for a moment, just think, hey, maybe it's okay that I feel this way, then you can actually start to really meaningfully move forward. Whereas if you continue to think that there's something wrong with you,
Mhm.
are you ever going to really be able to deal with it? It's very, very hard. It's much easier when you accept and allow to then explore. It's the difference between like man versus self,
Mhm.
like fighting yourself, hating yourself,
Mhm.
and giving yourself compassion, love, embracing yourself, and allowing space for true, like, connection, intimacy, growth.
Correct, but who's to say is right? Who's to say that you're right or wrong?
There is no right or wrong.
Okay.
It's not about right or wrong. It's about what feels good to you. What
Okay.
and then, if so, like, I'm talking about, and this is like not easy by any means, because we exist in a world where
Mhm.
there are laws and there are standards and there are ideas about morality and what is right or wrong. But my job as a coach is not to actually determine that, it's to help you determine what is something that allows you to sleep at night, basically.
And that's the main point. What makes you sleep at night? How do you feel when you go to
Exactly,
sleep at night?
yeah. And like, I like to use really obvious, sort of extreme examples to make points.
Mhm.
If you're a homosexual and you're raised in a world that tells you over and over and over that you're gonna go to hell if
Mhm.
you engage in that way, and you do everything you can to fight it, but
Hmm.
then in your 60s or 70s, after being married and having children, you realize, guess what? I'm still homosexual. And
Mm.
it's like at some point, some people will never accept that they're homosexual because they will always believe that that is wrong. And if that's what allows them to sleep at night, then okay. But a lot of people have a hard time sleeping at night with that because they're not really being fully honest about who they are. So then they're always carrying that shame and that secrecy, and it can be a lot harder to sleep at night. But for some people, maybe that is maybe that's all they are capable of doing is living within the world that they know.
Right.
And they can never, and you know what? Sometimes being who you are is dangerous. It can mean being hurt. If you're in a world where maybe being homosexual means getting beat up on a regular basis,
Right.
maybe that makes sleeping at night really hard. So these are not easy, simple things by any means, you know? Like, this is all very, very tough stuff.
Correct. All right. So you say everything is tough stuff. So how do the expectations, spoken or unspoken, undermine, our relationships and intimacy?
Well, I think expectations in general undermine things overall because they lead to assumptions.
Hmm.
And then when we make assumptions, we are not really getting to know our partner. We're
Right.
not really learning who they are. We're setting standards, and that's okay. If that's, again, I'm not here actually to tell anyone what to do, you
Hmm.
know? And if you are the kind of person who has these expectations and they need to be met, and that is that, then okay, you just might have a harder time finding a partner
Hmm.
because you're maybe not giving people as much of a chance, or you're not allowing, or something else maybe could be going on. Um, and it could be a protective thing. Maybe people have hard lines, hard boundaries, hard expectations because they've been hurt in the past, and that's okay too. So it's like a balance between
Hmm.
knowing ourselves and what we can expect from ourselves, and then and that's tricky because we people surprise them. Like, a lot of times we don't know what we're capable of until we're in a situation, and then we realize, oh wow, I had no idea I was capable of that. So we don't always know what to expect from our own selves, but that's why, we learn, we grow relationally through uh, these experiences with others. But when we have expectations of others, and especially if we don't communicate them, then often I would say that sets you up for, I'm going to say failure, but I say that with quotes. I mean, um, misunderstandings, miscommunications, maybe the belief that there's consent when there really isn't, things like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, what are some common myths about feminism and gender roles that you encounter in your line of work?
You said this is a 25-minute podcast?
25. Go ahead. Do what you got to do.
Where are we? Okay. Yeah. Well, oof. I've seen this show up in a lot of ways that, like, I continued to it continues to show up in ways that I am still like, wow, I didn't even realize, you know? So, um okay, so lately I've had a lot of clients who grew up in purity culture,
Okay.
and that's That is not synonymous with religion
Right.
or Christianity, but it is often uh, in it often does get lumped together and go hand in hand. But there's many different cultures that grow up with this purity culture idea.
Mhm.
And what I've seen, and so I didn't really grow up. Sorry, I'm putting my dog down. I didn't really grow up with that kind of those kinds of expectations. So some of the sort of typical gender role type things that I was exposed to,
Mhm.
um, I never realized the ways that purity culture gender expectations can really mess with people. And these are some of the things I've learned through my sessions with clients. Um, Men end up believing that they pose a real threat or danger
Mhm.
to women and believe that they are bad simply by being men with lust, male desire, uh,
Mhm.
almost as if their bodies are weapons. And, but then, okay, so then women are grown, like, are given the message that they are responsible for the way that the man is going to respond.
Mhm.
So if a man is going to look at you with lust
Mhm.
and go to hell, and because that's basically the message of purity culture
Mhm.
in its extreme form, which it often is extreme, then it's not the guy's fault because he can't help it that he looked at you that
Mhm.
way. It's your fault for having this womanly shape. So you better cover up. You better act modestly. If not, you could be the reason that a man sins. And and there's tons of. I I experienced that in a way when I was young. I was in 8th grade and
Mhm.
I got pulled out of class
Mhm.
by the vice principal for my clothes. I was not dressed inappropriately. Like, I wasn't. And my mom called to complain because I was very upset because it was embarrassing and also felt really unfair. And he told my mom that because I had a more mature body
Mhm.
because I did, like, I got boobs early on, that I needed to, like, cover up more. And I was wearing, like, a cardigan and a tank top, no cleavage, nothing.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, am I supposed to dress in baggy clothes because I have boobs and I'm responsible for the boys paying attention to their studies? Like, there's just something about that message, and also felt really inappropriate for him to even be looking at me that way. The whole thing was just odd. So
Yeah, that's
whatever.
weird.
It 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 was. I just remember being really, really, really upset and like violated. Like, I
Right.
remember being violated by that. And I can only imagine if I felt truly like it was my responsibility to keep men from sinning. And then the thing is, then the message becomes, but when you get married,
Mhm.
it's your duty as the wife
Mhm.
to make sure that you fulfill the man's desires. And if you don't, he might have to go elsewhere. And that's not his fault because he can't help it.
Right.
It's and so it's the more, and again, I'm talking about purity culture.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about religion.
Right.
I'm not talking about faith. I'm not talking about God. I'm I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the messaging that I think it was a response to the sexual revolution that happened in like the 60s and 70s. And then we had the HIV, AIDS crisis scare, people not quite understanding what was happening. It was, I think, meant in good faith as a way to help, like, let's help young people make good decisions, and
Mhm.
let's shape it in this way where we talk about sex being something between like loving people who are committed.
Mhm.
But at some point uh, it got pretty carried away,
Mhm.
and then and abstinence only programs, which to this day are still more accepted by parents than evidence-based sexual health education programming, which is like condoms plus. And then what you end up with is you end up with young, horny teens who figure out ways to skirt the system. So maybe, I don't know if that's actually a totally PC phrase to say, but as I'm like talking about all this, but you end up with teens who are having anal sex and saying, "But I'm still a virgin," and uh, and there's other things of that nature. Um, there was like a popular, I don't know if you know, this came up in a session yesterday. Are you familiar with the term soaking?
No, I'm new to that. What's that?
Okay, that's a
What's
fun one.
soaking?
So apparently, I could be wrong about, like, this could be an exaggeration of exactly like the way social media sort of, I don't know, but basically the idea. And this, I think, came from sort of the Mormon um, purity culture, was if you insert your penis in the vagina, but
Mhm.
then you just hold it there, you don't move, you don't penetrate, you just hold it there and
Mhm.
soak, you're not
Oh,
having sex.
okay, that's confusing, but
Wow. It's creative.
it's creative because
Oh,
there's actually penetration going on. So,
yeah. You know what? I think there might be, like, bouncing involved or something. Like, if movement happens because the bed bounces, it's like you're not controlling that or something. I don't It's been a while since that sort of went around, but I just remember thinking, "Huh, uh, no, I don't think that actually, I'm not sure." It but okay. So anyways, um, yeah, and it's tough too because, uh, if you're also so okay, let's go back to telling young women they're responsible for, like, the way a man looks at her. Well, then you also had there's this big culture around, victim blaming. Like,
mhm.
"Well, you were dressed like a horse, so were you raped?"
So
Or
slut
were you
shaming.
Yeah, slut shaming to the point of, like, true rape victims, not just women, men too,
Right.
non-binary people, trans people, anybody, truly believing that they weren't, like, if they did not give consent, a lot of times people don't understand that they didn't give consent because they don't understand what that means. So, what I mean by that, and I'll go back to the law enforcement example about being trauma informed,
Mhm.
is um, I had a client who was raped,
Okay.
and she froze, and that is it's common. We know this now. It is a common response to freeze, which means
Mhm.
you're not actively fighting off your assailant.
Mhm.
And the police officer asked her if she fought back
Right.
or pushed the guy off, and she said no. And there's like a lot more to the story, but ultimately no charges were pressed. um and I'll just say there's ways that women and men, but women, uh it's a little different the way that these formats and platforms are used, but there's apps and things where people share their experience and warn other
Mhm.
women, like, hey, look out for this guy, he's abusive or whatever. And I'll just say that she's not the first person that this guy
Well,
did this to.
what was that app? It was started this year. That woman's app that wound up turning into something else. It started off as that. I forgot the name of it.
Well,
No,
so
last year. It was
there's
last year.
there's one that I recently became aware of called like the T. I think it was like the
Yeah,
T
the T
app.
app. Yeah, the T app. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
And it went. It
And
was
then
supposed to have been for that, but it went a whole nother way.
right. So that's what, so I don't know because I don't, okay, yes. So recently I did see somebody post somewhere, it might have been on Reddit, and they were like, what happened to the T app? And so I don't know what happened, but I know something happened. I didn't read it, but I'll say there are other groups in the same vein, which you're like not, you're like, it's like Fight Club. Like, first rule of
Right.
Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. But I'll just say that these groups originally, as as many things do, start out with good intentions, and then they get out of control,
Well,
and
and that's what happened with
they
the T app because it was basically, to protect women from like rape culture and people giving STDs and all that stuff. But then it just went to saying, okay, he just did me wrong, so I'm just gonna put him
yes,
on here,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
yeah,
Yes. So and I'll just say that continues because the T app is not the only thing that exists for that purpose. And I live, I'm in Dallas and I'm in a big city, and I've seen some of these groups, and they have over 200,000 people in them.
mhm,
And that's a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. And I'll just say, in response, men have those groups now as well.
mhm,
And unfortunately, because as much as you're not supposed to talk about these things, people do. You're not supposed to screenshot, but people do.
right,
And people find out. And unfortunately, what I've seen in some of these groups for men, it's like hard for me to even say, is men will say, X person, this woman, she'll fuck on the first date, or she'll let you fuck her raw, or just, just, I'm sorry, how, like, it's not, it's, it's not nice. It's not helpful. It's not in the vein of being like, look out for her, she's a cheater.
mhm,
It's, if you want to meet somebody who you can have sex with easily, hit her up. It's, and like, that person might legitimately be looking for a relationship, and
right.
like, just, it's, social media is scary, and that's just, there, it's, a lot of it is problematic for so many
I
reasons.
got it. But last question though, how can we talk about porn in a way that's honest and not rooted in fear or moral panic?
Porn, um okay, so porn, I think, Okay, I'm gonna make a comparison to something. Uh, this is a weird comparison, but it makes sense. Um, Backyard breeding of like puppy mills.
Mhm.
Um, there's there's a lot of shady stuff that happens in uh, in that world. Okay,
Mhm.
and a lot of animal rights activists originally were like, we need to make it illegal. We need to put an end to it.
Mhm.
But the answer isn't you need to put an end to it because people are always going to find a way. And
Right.
so if you can't get these purebred puppies or designer puppies from a breeder in wherever USA,
Mhm.
they start shipping them in from other countries like China and
Right.
Mexico. And I mean, it happens. And I learned, I'm like not making this stuff up. So what they did was they said, no, we need to make it legal and we need to regulate it so that we know it's going to happen.
Mhm.
We need to make it so that if it's happening, because we know it's going to happen, that it's being done in a way that's as safe as it possibly can be.
Right.
So I think porn is the same way, where it's like if if we just say porn's bad, porn's wrong, it makes you bad. You're bad if you watch it. You're bad if you make it. All right, well, people are going to find a way. People have been making porn for decades. There's like silent film movie porn type stuff out there. I mean, porn, this is again, takes me back to the beginning where it's like humans, sex, they go together. We can't pretend like that isn't a thing. So if we acknowledge it and then we say, "Hey, let's do this in a way that's safe and good," then yeah, I think we could have conversations about it that were meaningful. But we're a long way from that. It's getting better, but yeah.
It is, but thank you for coming on. And anybody want to continue the conversation with Mandy, you can reach her at www.hearts dash desire.com. So
Mhm.
anything you want to say before you leave?
Yeah, these are heavy topics, and I know sometimes they can get kind of hard and dark, but sex is fun, and I think the world would be a better place if we were all just having, you know,
We were all just
like
soaking.
just yeah, let's just soak in it. Let's just soak in the glory and the connection and the intimacy. If we were just doing that, oh, the world would be such a better place.
Yeah, it would be. So, thank you for coming. You're always welcome. I will see everybody next week. Same time, same channel, 7 p.m. You know, I never know who the guest is next week. So you'll find out during the week. So see you guys next week. Remember www.harts-desire.com, www.hotsdesire.com if you want to speak to Mandy about anything.
Anything.
She's there. See you guys next week.
Thank you.
Oh man.